Shocking new discovery in Egypt. You won't believe this. The past holds a lot of secrets, and we're here to uncover them. Join us on this epic historical journey. Subscribe and be part of the discovery. But what many don't know is that this whole pyramid building trend actually started with the Step Pyramid of Giza, built around 4,700 years ago.
This massive structure was made for Pharaoh Djoser, one of Egypt's earliest legendary rulers. It rises 7 layers above the ground and stands about 200 feet tall. Today, we see it as a huge architectural project, but for the ancient Egyptians, it was more like a giant experiment, a trial run to practice their construction skills before moving on to bigger and more ambitious pyramids.
Let's talk about the huge complex at Saqqara. Surrounding the pyramid is something called the dry moat. Basically, a continuous trench about 164 feet wide and roughly 2 meters deep, forming a sort of rectangle around the pyramid.
On average, this trench goes down about 65 feet. Now, if you gathered up all the dirt and rocks they dug out to make this trench, it would be about 10 times the volume of the Step Pyramid itself. For the longest time, people thought this trench was just a giant quarry where they got the stone and clay to build the pyramid. Makes sense, right? But when you look closer, the theory doesn't really hold up. The trench is way too narrow and deep to be practical for mining. Its layout doesn't match anything we know about ancient Egyptian digging methods. Plus, some parts of the trench are even covered with stone roofs, making it almost impossible to use for quarrying.
In 2020, a researcher came up with an interesting idea.
What if this trench was actually designed to collect and manage water, especially after heavy rains? That would make a lot of sense, given its location in an area where rainwater runoff from nearby plateaus could easily flood the site. This could also explain why the trench wasn't used for new tombs until much later, when the climate had become drier and floods were less common. But it gets even more fascinating. It seems this trench is actually part of a much larger and more complex hydraulic system within Djoser's complex. Imagine carefully carved chambers connected by tunnels. These might have been part of a water treatment system, where water flowed from one chamber to another, getting cleaner as it moved along. And here's where it ties back to the pyramid itself. Some researchers believe the water from this deep trench could have powered a hydraulic lifting system. But of course, not everyone buys into this theory. Some experts argue that the area where Djoser's Step Pyramid was built simply couldn't hold enough water from the occasional rainfall to keep such a complex hydraulic system running. The main theory suggests that maybe there used to be a lake nearby that filled up after heavy rains, and this lake could have supplied water to the system. The problem? There's no mention of such a lake in any ancient Egyptian texts, so it might just be more of a what-if idea than an actual fact. Then there's the issue of hard labor itself. Remember when we said this method would let ancient builders lift heavy stones with much less effort? Well, that might not be totally true. Some experts believe that building the hydraulic system alone would have required even more hard work than simply dragging the stones around with good old manpower.
Before we dive into why pyramids exist all over the world and how they got there, let's take a look at some other cool examples. First up, the Pyramid of the Sun in Mexico. These people really knew how to build a city. Their urban center stretched over 7 square miles, filled with many pyramids, but the Pyramid of the Sun is the most impressive of them all. Built around 100 AD, it's one of the largest structures of its kind in the entire Western Hemisphere. It stands 216 feet tall. That's huge. If you ever visit this ancient city, you won't miss it. It's right there on the east side of the Avenue of the Dead, the main north-south street of the city.
To build this massive pyramid, they used about 1 million cubic yards of materials, including a special type of red volcanic rock called tepitate. Pretty impressive, right? We don't know a lot about the people who built the Pyramid of the Sun or exactly why they built it. But archaeologists believe there was once a temple on top. When explorers dug beneath the pyramid in the 1970s, they found a network of tunnels and amazing chambers. And in 2011, they even discovered a secret stash of pottery, obsidian pieces, animal bones, human figurines, and a mask. Who knows what other secrets are still hidden there? If you ever plan to visit, you can climb the pyramid using 24 to 48 uneven steps on the west side. Just watch your step.
Now let's not forget about Sudan, which has its own pyramids too. The Nubian pyramids aren't as big as Egypt's, but they've got around 200 of them. These ancient pyramids were the tombs of the pharaohs of the Meroitic kingdom, which ruled Egypt from Nubia all the way to the Mediterranean for almost 1,000 years. The pyramids in Meroe were built using granite and red sandstone. Fun fact, some pyramids in Sudan are actually older than Egypt's. The Kushite pyramids reflect the unique architecture and burial traditions of the ancient Napata and Meroe kingdoms, though heavily influenced by Egypt. One of the most significant sites is the burial place of over 40 kings and queens. The tomb walls are decorated with images of mummified rulers lying on beds of jewelry, with wooden chests full of bows, arrows, and more. Other artifacts also show the connection and trade between the Meroitic civilization and both the Egyptians and the Greeks. So if you're looking to explore some ancient tombs but want to avoid the big tourist crowds in Egypt, you might want to consider heading to Sudan instead.
Now let's fly over to Iraq to check out more pyramids. The ones there are called ziggurats. Unlike the smooth-sided pyramids in Egypt, ziggurats have fancy stepped layers and are built like tiered cakes. They were perfect for important rituals and ceremonies that took place inside. You can still find these tall structures spread across Iraq and Iran, standing as a true testament to the strength and skill of the people who built them. One of the biggest and most impressive is the ziggurat of Ur. It's basically a giant rectangular pyramid, rising between 70 to 100 feet high, with 3 massive terraces and a temple on top. Just imagine how many baked bricks it took to build this thing. Try 720,000 bricks for just the bottom part alone. This particular ziggurat was built for the Sumerian king Ur-Nammu. Like other ziggurats, it's been standing for thousands of years, so it's gotten a little rough around the edges. Luckily, the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar and some archaeologists helped restore it in the 6th century BC and later in modern times. You can now visit it near the Talil Air Base. The ziggurat of Ur was built around 2100 BC by King Ur-Nammu to honor Nana, the moon god. Back in its day, it was the tallest building in the city and could be seen from miles away, kind of like a medieval cathedral tower for its time. People would come here to bring their agricultural surplus, collect food rations, and seek spiritual guidance. Sadly, the Temple of Nana at the top didn't survive, but we do have some blue glazed bricks that might have been part of its decorations. The lower parts of the ziggurat are still quite impressive. Fun fact: the architects even designed small holes in the baked brick exterior to help evaporate moisture from inside the structure. Smart, right? Now that we've seen some pyramids around the planet, let's take a broader look. Pyramids can be found in many parts of the world. Egypt has over 100 pyramids. Sudan actually has twice as many. There are also dozens more scattered across the Middle East and China, but the Americas have the largest total number of pyramids, more than the rest of the world combined. You'll find them in Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. It's time to dive into how pyramids evolved through history. The oldest pyramid is in Egypt. This was a step pyramid built by stacking stone layers on top of each other. The pharaoh Sneferu is credited with creating the true pyramid shape we all know today. During his reign around 45 AD, he built 3 pyramids. His first attempt failed, but he eventually succeeded with the Red Pyramid, considered the first true pyramid. Sneferu's son, Khufu, built the famous Great Pyramid of Giza, which was the tallest man-made structure in the world for nearly 4,000 years. Interestingly, the pyramids of Latin America resemble Egypt's early step pyramids, but they were built completely independently. These civilizations didn't even know about each other. The pyramids in Sudan were built around 700 BC. They're tall but much narrower than the ones in Egypt. So how did all these civilizations, scattered across the globe, end up building such similar structures without ever communicating with each other? After all, the Aztecs, Mayans, and ancient Egyptians were as different as it gets. Yet they all seemed to agree on one thing: pyramids were awesome. Step pyramids became common worldwide because they were simply the most practical and stable way to build tall, large structures, especially without access to lightweight building materials like wood or metal. A pyramid's triangular shape with a square base is just a smart way to build something big and strong. Trying to build a cube-shaped structure would require a lot more materials for much less height. When it comes to design, Egyptian pyramids were like giant triangles with smooth sides and a pointed top. On the other hand, the Aztecs and Mayans went for that stepped layer cake look, with staircases leading up to a flat platform at the top. So while they all share the same basic pyramid shape, each culture added its own twist. Different materials, building techniques and slope angles gave each pyramid its unique vibe. Sometimes they might have been inspired by others, but often they were just doing their own thing. Egyptian pyramids, for example, were built with smooth sides designed to help the pharaoh's soul ascend to the heavens. The Pyramid of the Sun in Mexico was built over a series of caves believed to be a sacred path for the gods. The Mayans built El Castillo at Chichen Itza to honor the god Kukulkan, usually depicted as a feathered serpent. This pyramid has 91 steps on each side, plus the top platform, adding up to 365 steps, one for each day of the Mayan calendar. So, Brightsiders, how were pyramids really built? Simple answer: by humans, not aliens from outer space. The one thing all these pyramids have in common is that they were built by people, with nothing more than their brains, hands, and sheer determination. The ancient Egyptians didn't have advanced tools or even the wheel when they built the pyramids. It took a huge number of people to get the job done, including skilled workers and architects. For example, it's estimated that around 20,000 people built the Great Pyramid of Giza, and most of them were actually skilled laborers, not just slaves as many people think. Building a pyramid was a massive project that needed years of planning and hard work. To give you an idea, the Great Pyramid of Cholula in Mexico took about 600 years to finish. Just imagine working 7 days a week on a huge construction site, along with thousands of others, lifting and placing millions of heavy stone blocks by hand. All of this without modern machinery, no air conditioning, and barely enough water to stay hydrated. The heat was so intense you could probably fry an egg on the ground. For decades you'd be building this enormous structure, and when it was finally finished, you'd stand back and look at the result. A giant cultural monument frozen in time, meant to amaze people for thousands of years. Fast forward a few thousand years, people in the 21st century look at the pyramids and go, "Wow, I can't believe humans built this." Sure, the original builders probably wouldn't appreciate the alien conspiracy theories, but to be fair, it is hard to believe how they did it with the tools they had. From the outside, pyramids might look like just big stone triangles, like people just stacked heavy blocks on top of each other. But the reality is, the design is so precise, it's mind-blowing. The Great Pyramid of Giza is made of over 2 million stone blocks, fitted so perfectly that you can't even slide a piece of paper between them. To this day, scientists still don't fully understand how they managed to build them with such precision. One of Egypt's most mysterious wonders is the Great Sphinx. The ancient Egyptians carved it from a single massive piece of limestone about 4,500 years ago. Yet, to this day, scientists aren't even sure exactly when it was built or who built it. Back then, the Sphinx was painted in bright colours, making it look much more vivid and alive. It shined just like the Great Pyramids. Over time, its appearance changed a lot, and so did its name. The ancient Egyptians originally called it Horemakhet. Later, the Greeks renamed it Sphinx a few hundred years after it was built. The Sphinx wasn't just a statue for decoration. It symbolized the power of Egypt's rulers and acted like a giant guardian, protecting the pharaoh's tomb and the paths leading to it. This idea makes sense because archaeologists have found several hidden entrances at the base of the Sphinx. These secret chambers and tunnels might lead to underground halls filled with treasures, but treasures don't always mean gold and jewels. According to legends, the Sphinx guards the Hall of Records, a place that supposedly holds all the lost knowledge of humanity. Some even believe it could contain ancient information about the legendary city of Atlantis. You can easily find maps online showing detailed layouts of underground chambers beneath the Sphinx. Some claim there are structures as deep as 12 floors down, like a hidden city full of gold, ancient scrolls, and powerful artifacts. But be careful. Most of these maps are just theories and not actual evidence. Thousands of years have passed, but we still know very little about what lies beneath the Sphinx. Archaeologists are certain there's still more to discover. However, some locals are afraid to explore further. They believe digging deeper could awaken something terrible beneath the earth. That's why most of the excavations are done by scientists from other countries. In 1998, researchers discovered strange tunnels leading to empty rooms under the Sphinx. They realized that people had tried to get in through those tunnels in the past, possibly taking whatever treasures were once there. There's even a legend that powerful ancient artifacts lie beneath the Sphinx, objects with technology advanced enough to change the entire world. But according to some stories, locals have hidden them to protect the planet from their dangerous power. Some believe that unknown technologies are depicted in the carvings and paintings inside the pharaoh's tombs, but more likely these are just old myths and religious stories. Still, what if those ancient symbols and drawings were actually detailed instructions for using forgotten technologies? Maybe the people back then thought future generations wouldn't figure it out, so they left behind visual manuals carved in stone. In the end, there are still so many mysteries and theories, but searching for answers is risky. Excavating underground is dangerous. It could damage the entire Sphinx structure, and anyone who gets lost in the tunnels might never find their way out again. Plus, such projects are extremely expensive. What would be really cool is if someone invented a device that could scan underground areas and show us a detailed three-dimensional map of what's below. Speaking of technology, you've probably heard of Nikola Tesla. And of course you've heard of the Egyptian pyramids, but what if I told you Tesla might have uncovered the ancient secrets of the pyramids? Sounds like the ultimate crossover episode, right? Well, it's possible that the pyramids are hiding secrets that we just haven't figured out yet. But before we get too deep into theories, let's recap